Hi, listeners. This is Andrea Warner. I'm here to give you a quick update on Pop This before you dive into our new episode. As some of you may know, we made the decision last week to not release an episode, and instead shared a list of podcasts we love that are hosted or co-hosted by Black people. We hope that you saw this list and are making your way through all of the great recommendations. If not, you can still find it on all of our social media. This episode you're about to listen to was recorded several weeks ago. And since we don't talk about any current events, we wanted to drop in and give you an update. First of all, Lisa, Andrea Gin, and I it doesn't feel right to us to release this episode or any others without first acknowledging the roles that pop culture and feminism play in upholding colonial violence and perpetuating white supremacy, especially with regards to anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism. We as a group also realize it's up to us to put in the work to ensure Pop This is an anti-racist podcast. So we will hold each other accountable and operate from the shared belief that Black lives matter. We will commit to addressing our own inherent bias, both in our everyday lives and the pop culture we consume. And we'll also fully acknowledge we have a lot to learn, and we will be learning our whole lives, and that it's up to us to do the work and not ask our Black friends, associates, and colleagues to do it for us. So, how are we going to start doing this? Well, our next episode next week, we'd like you to join us to watch the 1991 film Daughters of the Dust by Julie Dash. It's the first picture directed by a Black woman to receive a wide release in theaters. Sit with that for a minute. The film is available to stream for free right now on Criterion, as are many other incredible movies by Black directors. We're extremely excited to dig into this classic film and talk about it next week, and we hope that you all will join us. Until then, here's our episode on the late, great Lynn Shelton. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So here we are. I don't know, since we record these in advance, I don't know what here we are means or where we are or who we are.
Week bajillion, 2 weeks in the past from whenever you're listening to it now, dear listener.
Dear listener, I have a feeling that wherever you are now, the whole mask situation has been solved.
Like people are now wearing them and knowing
they're wearing
to do
them.
That.
They're understanding how to wear them, where to wear them. They figured out where to purchase them. They figured out that it's not some political sham to make us, I don't know what there's a lot of issues around this mask that I wasn't expecting. But it is quite I don't even feel like the adjustment to actually wearing a mask is such a big deal. I feel like it's the whole rest of it.
It's ruining my lipstick game, but it's keeping me from spreading any of my droplets everywhere and cutting down on it. Actually does, like my friend Michael, who's a bus driver, he's been wearing a mask all the time, obviously, and he has severe allergies as well, and he says the mask is actually helping his allergies really well as hopefully keeping him from getting extra COVID. So
I wore it out today and it did fog up my sunglasses. How are you doing with that part?
Oh, I've been wearing mine out a lot. Truthfully, I've been wearing a mask for like 6 weeks. And anytime I had to leave the house, because my grandma was living with us and we were really worried about that. So at first it was just Carlos cutting the sleeves off his old t-shirts and us improvising masks. Like we would just pull them down over our heads and cover like basically the lower halves of our faces.
You didn't put a scarf on, like?
I have
And
scarves options as well,
oh
but I didn't want to have to wash the scarf every time I left, because you have to, those kinds of masks that are not real masks, you have to wash them every time you leave the house and come back.
yeah.
You can't double wear them. And I didn't want to rewash my scarves that frequently because it's not good for them. Um, but then my friend Amy, who's wonderful, made a bunch of us masks. And she made really wonderful ones that, like, for Grandma, Carlos, and I. So all three of us had like mask options leaving the house.
Yeah, I mean, I have one, but I think we need at least 2 or 3. I'm disappointed that J. Crew sold out of their striped masks, which, yes, they had. And yes, I wanted. And
Of course.
now there is not one. So I feel like, dear listener, again, we're talking to you from the past. And I feel like the whole mask game is probably quite amazing by now. Like the whole logo situation, the whole, what will I wear with my mask? Like, in terms of accessorizing, do you start with the mask and dress around it? Do you accent for a pop of color with the mask? Like, it's a lot to think about now.
I mean, Carlos does prefer to wear all the floral masks, and I wear the black and white masks. So we enjoy that when we go out in public. But I'm just surprised that, like, people are having these mask conversations now. I honestly thought everyone was doing it.
It seems to have, again, dear listener, kicked into real high gear during this week of, at least in British Columbia, the phase 2 of an opening. Now, dear listener, again, this time capsule we are sending you. I don't know how this all worked out.
Yeah, it sounds like we're in Interstellar or something.
We are in the midst of experimenting, just a few days into, going out more now and possibly eating in restaurants outside, distanced. I mean, there's all kinds of new things about to happen, and I don't know how they all worked out.
How do you both feel about going back to eat in restaurants?
Oh, it's a big no for me.
Because of your grandma?
No, she's not even living with us anymore. Whenever I drive past them, she's back at my sister's. Everything's fine. I get to see her every couple days. So I mean, partly yes, because of her. Also, I have allergies, and I have, like, if I had coronavirus, I think it would be very bad for my lungs. So I'm trying really hard to, like, avoid it still. And I'm happy to do, like, physically distanced, like, hangouts in parks and backyards and stuff. Whenever I drive past restaurants and I see people in them right now, it super freaks me out. It's really weird to me now.
Yeah. Andrea, have you been to one yet? Andrea Gin?
No, I haven't been to a restaurant yet, but we live pretty close to the commercial strip on West 10th. And I could hear people in restaurants from my house because our neighborhood is pretty quiet otherwise. And today when I was out in the backyard, I could hear, because restaurants have their doors open and their back doors open, I guess, to circulate the air more and stuff like that. But yeah, you can hear groups of people talking in restaurants, and it does seem super weird.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that. I mean, I don't say I'm used to this physical distancing thing, but I'm not in any hurry. Like I'd like to have I understand that even our conversation with masks, it's only like part of that whole thing, right? Yeah. There's the hand washing, there's the distancing, there's the, if you don't feel well, don't go out, all of those things, right? So I don't mind being part of the still staying home equation.
Yeah, I know.
Like I'm not rushing to get on transit.
That's it. Like, I mean, I do miss sitting on a patio, like going to have, like, drinks with you guys or something, like, but I'm super okay just putting, like, my secret wine in a thermos if I had to, and then going to sit in a park 8 feet apart. Like, I'm okay with that. That's good enough for me right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I don't quite feel like I can go back to what was before. I feel like things are still too different. It's still too precarious. I can still feel all those weird flutters I had when this started, and I've still got this prepper pantry as well. That seriously, there's enough chickpeas in there to keep everyone going, right? So,
oh yeah,
I'm still buying 2 or 3 of everything when I go shopping.
AG, you said you're a prepper and you actually had masks like in stock already.
Well, I mean, so I only learned when this pandemic happened that like there was a term prepper, and
there's a whole show, a reality show just called Preppers.
Kind of like a derogatory term. But yeah, like I've been I've done, well, I mean, we all should have done earthquake preparedness. We live in Vancouver.
I have a wind up radio with a flashlight.
Yeah,
that's good.
So yeah, I've been working on my stuff for like probably a decade. I have like water, radio, go bag, batteries.
What's a go bag?
It's like if your house is uninhabitable, it's like a bag you grab with like basic supplies.
Oh, that. Oh, okay.
Also, all of your fake passports, your $10,000 in different demarcations.
Yeah, exactly.
2 bricks of gold.
When she rips her face off and she's Tom Cruise underneath.
Exactly. 17 packs of cigarettes, all the essentials for like a new life on the run.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
She's been in witness protection the whole time.
Oh my God. Do you guys ever wonder like which of your friends maybe is in witness protection and you just haven't known like the whole time you've been friends? Oh.
You know, someone...
No.
I was watching 30 Rock once, and then someone told me that, have you watched the supercut of Jack Page, you know, Jack?
Yeah.
And it's a supercut of all of the times he mentions being immortal. Does that ring a bell to you?
No, but
and all of a sudden you watch it and they've been throwing that in the series a lot. Like there's got to be at least 30 references to the fact that he is immortal and can't die. Yeah, and I hadn't noticed that. So you're right on that front. I am starting to listen to my friends more and see if they do drop hints, about a previous life, another family, a crime that, the weird thing about how they don't leave fingerprints. Like, what's up with that, right? Why am I looking for their fingerprints? There's that too.
I mean, this has veered dramatically off course from mask preparation.
These are dangerous days. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. There is no good segue for this particular episode because it's kind of a sad episode, and we're also going to celebrate the life of someone who, none of us knew, but wonderful, wonderful filmmaker Lynn Shelton died unexpectedly from an undiagnosed blood disorder on May 16th. She left behind one young son, Milo Seal. We're going to pay tribute to Shelton's tremendous legacy as a writer, director, producer, and occasional actor. And we're going to focus this episode on Shelton's 2011 film, Your Sister's Sister. But you know what? So I was so busy introducing the movie and wanting to talk about that I skipped over the whole, I'm Andrea Warner.
And I'm Lisa Christiansen.
And I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And yeah, we're going to talk about Lynn
our
Shelton.
lockdown. We're still in the lockdown.
We're still in lockdown.
Months.
Still in lockdown. But like, as we've seen, things continue to happen around us. And I was really, really floored by Lynn Shelton's passing. It was very unexpected, and I love her work as a filmmaker. So I'm really happy that we're doing this episode about her and her legacy and talking about Your Sister's Sister, which is kind of a movie that I remember the trailer for, and I at the time in 2011 was like, oh, I don't know if I feel like watching a movie about a threesome between sisters. Because that's what I thought that was about in the trailer. Obviously,
but
it was
not. You could have
not.
read the synopsis and found out that wasn't.
Well, it's amazing. I should have known better for Lynn Shelton. To like not just go for that obvious thing, even if the marketing wanted to push that. And because I really love a lot of her films, and I'm sad it was like only now that I've seen this for the first time. Do you want to read the background?
Your Sister's Sister is an American comedy drama film written and directed by Lynn Shelton and starring Emily Blunt, Rosemary DeWitt, and Mark Duplass. The film premiered on September 11th, 2011 at the Toronto International Film Festival and was released in the United States on June 15th, 2012. And Andrea, do you want to do the synopsis?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no? Sorry.
Jack falls into bed with his best friend Iris's sister, Hannah, leading to an unexpected love triangle when his best friend arrives the next day.
It's a very simple premise for a film, but I like it quite a bit.
But accurate, because really that's all that happens in this entire movie. I mean, which is to say I really liked it, but yeah, it's a very, very simple premise.
It's a really small, intimate movie, and I really love how much like it's really just this sort of simple premise, these kind of extraordinary heightened circumstances that happen within it, and we just spend time with people who are going through some kind of pretty complicated things, and then there's a somewhat tidy resolution, but there's also a lot of questions left at the end, and I enjoy sort of like basically like eavesdropping on these people's lives for a few days.
Yeah,
like that's what it feels.
Yeah, I know.
Like.
Yeah, and I think also that it's also important to point out that she was from Seattle, Lynn was, and so the fact that this is set in one of the San Juan Islands, which looks like our Gulf Islands here in BC, and so I always wonder how other people see that, because that's the kind of that cottagey, well, it's actually quite a nice house on this island, and the sort of rainy landscape, that ferry, that is so here.
Yeah. I mean, it feels.
And I did read that she wanted that to be like another character, like this place, that feeling, that damp, cold, out in the woods type feeling that you get is very unique to here.
Can't you smell the forest in this movie? Like just instantly.
Yeah. And Seattle just has a look to it. I mean, have
either of you ever been to the San Juans?
No.
The Olympic Peninsula? We go there every summer, except for maybe not anymore. But we used to go to Port Townsend.
I've been there. Sorry, I have been to Port Townsend. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really beautiful, and I actually find it more. I don't know what the word is, but I find like our Gulf Islands are, like it's really touristy, and to me the San Juans have a more of a real everyday feel to them. Like there's real communities there and real people living there. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just the most beautiful place, and of course it's like, got the sort of home of Bigfoot kind of foresty feel to it.
But it also,
what's
similar to that in the Gulf Islands, though, are that these craggy coastlines and these houses built on these cliffs, and the houses are very like woodsy, and for some reason they don't like curtains, which upsets me because I like curtains. Like I don't mind like during the day being able to see, but at night having all those windows, just anyway, I digress. But all those Gulf Island homes have that exact same look, right? Those big windows on those cliffs, all that wood, weird kind of like macrame and stuff. Like, I don't know where you go and buy that. Like, couldn't you just make it look nice? Why do you have to we'll make it look like a cabin? Yeah, and then there's some kind of discussion in the story that it used to be, I guess, a lot funkier and cooler and more fun, except for our Hannah and Iris's dad. They have different moms. Bit of a player is their dad, and he has a new wife who I guess tore down the old house and built this extremely ordinary wooden thing.
It still
which you
looks
see
pretty
everywhere.
beautiful.
It did, but you see, you know what I mean, though, right? It's not the way
Yeah,
they
no,
were
I know.
describing, as if they'd lived in some kind of beautiful, you know, like funky thing that probably had like, you know how people make those sorts of, they take a piece of driftwood and they hang cutlery off it, and so
Yes.
when the wind, like a wind chime, that's what I imagine they used to have.
So, AG, had you seen this movie before?
No, and I'd never even heard of it, which made me wonder what I was doing in 2011
Yeah.
because I actually, Mike Birbiglia has like a small role in this, and I actually enjoy his work a lot, and I follow him on social media and stuff, and it just like it never came up. Like I've never heard of this movie before, and I was really like scratching my head about it. But then I was reading more about it, and I watched the movie, and it's part of the mumblecore movement.
Yeah.
And that's just not a genre that I enjoy very much, so I tend to avoid all of those movies, and so that's why I had never seen it before.
But I feel like, I mean, I know that like sort of Lynn Shelton is credited as like creating part of the mumblecore movement, but like I just think of, I don't
Do
know.
you guys want to define what the mumblecore movement is?
I have something right here.
Yeah.
Mumblecore films tend to revolve around characters in their 20s and early 30s who are usually single, white, and fairly aimless in both their professional and personal lives. Plots are often concerned with difficulties in romantic relationships, exacerbated by the character's inability to articulate their own desires.
Jesus, this is the boilerplate then.
Yes.
That is, yeah. But I mean, I feel like mumblecore then like sort of kind of reduces her work, because like you would have come to this way earlier if it had been sort of like in a slightly different genre, right? Like, or I guess, how did you feel about it?
I mean, with all due respect, because like I know that she's a great director, and I know that she's got an amazing body of work, and I have a ton of respect for how she was completely indie and like had this fierce independent spirit about how she approached making her film, and I have a ton of respect for all of that. But I just don't enjoy. I'm not interested in mumblecore, and I found that this was very much of the genre, and even like when I watched it last night, I wasn't that engaged with it.
Okay. Well, fair. We can get into
but I mean, because I'm just not into the genre. I don't like improvised acting in movies that much, and yeah, I don't know.
I would say that's interesting, because that probably is it is something I really do love, because I really love Curb Your Enthusiasm, and that's all improv. And I love awkward scenes. That's like a favorite thing of mine, is people feeling incredibly awkward. And that opening scene with that memorial for Jack's brother was just so incredibly awkward. I mean, luckily it turned awkward, because at first it was just navel gazing and I was bored. Like, it just, all of those people were in the weirdest brown clothing. Like, what happened to them? I guess sometimes, like, when I think people go, let's make it look Seattle, they have this idea of what it really, and I granted she's from there and things, so maybe those are people.
All those extras showed up in their own clothes.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
The palette was probably just like sort of memorial, but a year later.
So, and here's my thing. So I had seen this movie before.
Yeah.
And I quite liked it. But I would counter with the fact that I think it is mumblecore by what you defined there, what you read. However, the cast is way better than those movies generally are. Like, this is a really stellar cast, right? Like, everyone in it has done all kinds of other incredible things. Like, I've been a really big fan of Mark Duplass. Has these, he's become such a big producer with his brother of all kinds of projects, but I've watched, he has these series of found footage movies called Creep, which I may have mentioned here, and they're really good, and they're so weird, and they're a little bit like this, actually, you know? And obviously Emily Blunt is, I mean, you know, what do you say? And then Rosemary DeWitt, I've always just thought she was just like that perfect embodiment of that bohemian that she played in Mad Men. In the, and so everyone in this was so much better than that. That's why this movie elevated to me.
All right, fair. I mean, I guess I feel like I understand. Yeah, like based on that definition of mumblecore, this movie definitely fits that. I just like, I guess I see it sort of like a bit dismissed as a style of filmmaking, as much as it's also sort of like hyper over maybe validated as a style of filmmaking as well. I think both can exist because like there's such distinct fan bases for different genre of filmmaking. But I guess this movie feels, I don't know, it just feels really successful on several levels, and a little bit like not compelling on other levels. Like I like it a lot. I agree with a lot of reviews I read, which were that Jack as a lead is a real head scratcher.
Yes.
Because why would either of these women care about this man?
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Hannah doesn't really care about him at all.
I was trying to transport myself back to 2011 and be like, is this what was considered an attractive male in 2011? But I don't think so.
Well, if you were ambivalent before, boy, that speech he gave at the end, hey, where he talks about how he's a complete loser and he can't commit to anything and has no feelings. I was like, whoa, slow down, buddy. You had me at, I'm a loser and I have no prospects or money.
And yeah, they're all like, welcome to the family.
I know.
We see that, like, I mean, there are a couple moments where he is very funny and he can be a bit charming. I mean, I find his sort of like, just immediate sexualizing of this stranger who is the half sister of his best friend, whom he knows he's in love with, that he immediately starts hitting on her so aggressively and like getting her very drunk right away is like complete, like in 2020, real head scratching, like fire alarms going off in your head. A spoiler alert, the fact that she ends up poking holes in a condom to try and get secretly pregnant by him is also just speaking of fire alarms in your head, like, my God, that's terrible. And so it's kind of a movie of like two people who are kind of terrible, and then Iris, just this like weird innocent who gets to be sort of, the good person in this horrible triangle gone awry. And yet I care about the characters. Like I can't even believe I'm going to see this, but at the end the speech actually got me a tiny bit. Like it was kind of dumb, but like, yeah. I know. I think I'm getting my period. I don't know. But yeah, I just like, when I watched the way that the sisters interacted, and I'm a sucker for sister stuff, and like how contentious it could be, but also just like how they really do love each other and are trying to like figure out a sort of a way to have a relationship as adults and equals, and how complicated that is. We also find out, like, sort of, just through exposition, that like Hannah, who identifies as a lesbian, has just ended a 7-year relationship. Hannah, or Iris, has replicated her dad's like horn dog ways and goes from dude to dude to dude, but she's also the ex-girlfriend of Jack's dead brother. Like it's there are a lot of layers of stuff happening in this movie, and I also enjoy how ambitious and how empty it all is.
And it features the longest montage I've ever seen in a movie.
That was a long montage.
Which one are we talking about?
The sister montage where...
Oh, the chill, when they won't talk to each other?
It shows them slowly reconciling through...
And then she just goes, sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was...
it's intercut with him cycling all over.
And camping in that wet... Oh, God, I felt that chilling into my bones.
Totally.
Oh, my, yes.
But
while they're in that really snug little house.
If you're a fan of the montage, this is the movie for you.
Otherwise, though, it's mostly, I mean, strangely, it has a mostly real-time feel.
Yeah.
The scenes are very long, and like you said, it really only takes place over 2 or 3 days, with the exception of the jump to the end when she's doing the pregnancy test, which I guess they would have waited at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
But otherwise, it's all very contained into those 2 or 3 days in that house.
Yeah, and I mean, they filmed the whole thing in just 12 days. Like, that's kind of wild to me. Like, it's...
But there was a lot of improvising, which I think some people were better at than others in this.
Yeah, so what were your impressions of, like, the characters? Like, what did you like stuff about Hannah and Iris and Jack, or did you find it hard to connect with them?
Well, back to my, like, wondering if this kind of schlubby person was considered an attractive male in 2011. He did interestingly remind me of John Krasinski in, like, peak Office kind of era.
Yeah.
And which is interesting because he's like
Emily Blunt.
Now married to Emily Blunt. But but maybe that was John Krasinski in The Office, like the sort of picture of an attractive man in 2011.
I think that, I think you're missing that's still in movies considered the dude. Like, that's something that they keep writing. That's like Paul Rudd could have played this, right? And probably has in a million films. I feel like the attractive men characters in movies are a bit more pulled together these days than this guy is in this movie. Remember, we're not that far out of dad bod. Hello, I mean, that was a thing.
No, I don't think it's like a physical characteristic, or at least for me, it's not, because I think Mark Duplass is attractive. Like, it's the essence of the character. Like, he's out of work, emotionally disconnected, broken and in grief. He's
kind of
angry for sure, disconnected from a lot of his feelings. Like, this is very much the kind of guy who would go on Twitter, talk about having, like, being in a sort of like bad emotional state today, and then get 1,000 tweets in support of him being brave to talk about his feelings. Like, this is absolutely the sort of like type of dude that we still definitely love to validate and valorize.
That's what I think. He felt very fresh to me.
Really?
Yeah, that didn't seem like a stretch at all. Like, and when he went into that speech, I think, Andrea, here's what I think. I'm pointing and no one can see this. I think you've changed, as in me, as in us. I've changed. This is not working for me, but it's still that guy in those movies.
I think you just nailed it. Yeah.
I'm not interested in that anymore. I do not. That speech he gave, I was just like pressing that inside of my eye socket, like, shut up. Like, nobody in the world is ready for grief when it comes your way. Nobody is ready for a child unless you're I shouldn't say that. A lot of people are. A lot of people aren't. I mean, I think when they give numbers of how many unexpected kids there are on this planet, it's a high number. There's a lot of surprises out there. Life is full of surprises. You either just come up to the challenge or you don't. And God, that would have been my speech back to him, right? Just shut your whiny baby butt up, like, honestly.
So I definitely had more sympathy, it turns out, for him. I see both your points for sure. There's like a real, just poor me, sad sack sort of thing about him. But I guess what I feel like sort of where he's self-effacing enough to, like, this isn't his sales pitch. This is his sort of anti-sales pitch, which covers, like, I know a lot of dudes use to cover their butts, like, because they're manipulative and they can do this. Like, don't expect anything from me. I'm the worst, but I love you and you could change me kind of thing. Like, it's a terrible manipulative thing. But I guess where I give him like a little bit of leeway is it is such a tremendous violation to find out someone poked a bunch of holes in your condom. It's pretty like terrible behavior. And so many holes. Like, that was like really funny. But like,
when I got that twinge of, I should check.
Yeah.
I kind of had a sense of a little thing, but I didn't know that it would
That's
like
sprinkler
literally
system.
look like a colander.
That's
Yeah.
also a lot of thinking and actions from a severely intoxicated person.
I mean, I think you'd have to be severely intoxicated if you're not sort of like super malevolent. You would need to be super intoxicated to be like, hey, here's my chance. I don't want penises in me very often, anyways. Let's just do it.
And given that sex scene, I can see her point.
100%. I mean, it's a funny sex scene because it's awful. I found it very funny when he like lifted the blanket and she was like, "Yep, there's that," and he was like, "Okay, you're not impressed. Let's just do this." And I found those moments like very charming and funny.
I did too.
But like to get like to go back to the end part, he isn't mad because this is a movie in which, in this world of the movie, you don't get mad at this woman for doing this. You instead say, "Get in here, you little sperm stealer," and then like fold her into a hug while you make out with her half sister next to this woman's face.
When you put it all together
so
like
weird,
that,
and I didn't. Yeah,
it's a whole jumble of and he had whatever that Vision Quest montage of his own, right? Where
he kicked a bicycle.
Where he destroyed a bicycle and watched charming children play with toy cars and stuff. So he had his own, I mean, by the terms of the film anyway.
By the terms of the film,
he
had his journey.
Gone through a journey of things.
Yeah.
And so we're led to believe that this isn't the absolute worst thing. However, may I counter with, is it not just possible that Hannah had this already? I mean, I'm not saying she planned to have a guy come up to the cabin.
I mean, how do you plan for that?
You can't, but isn't it just possible that she knew what she wanted to do and she had that holy condom, in her bag just for an opportunity? Because as Andrea said, she was very drunk, and what did she find? Like
I know, like how did she do?
Yeah. I mean, it's totally possible. You know that song by Heart, "All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You," where she like finds a guy on the side of the road, takes him to a hotel room, gets pregnant. This is that song come to life, but with these like added
and where
layers.
is Heart from?
Heart is from Seattle originally. Well, so I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating a little bit in terms of backstory for this movie is that like the original German of idea was Mark Duplass's, but he wanted it to be a daughter and a mother, which is so much grosser to me. And Lynn, in a very wise move, was like, no, and like took the idea and made it two sisters and then two brothers.
Just like moved it a few degrees less gross.
But I think this is sort of like one of her powers of like just making something that doesn't, like, even though we find these women's taste in this man questionable, she doesn't sell out these women. She's still like this is a movie really about like these sisters and sort of like figuring some stuff out. I know Jack's there and it's his stuff too, but like I feel like the longer version of this movie that she had in mind was like maybe like less of a montage that folds in Jack's bicycle journey and more about how these sisters find their way back to each other in some way. And like,
I also like to envision a therapist coming into this situation and just, okay, tell me this again. You were dating his brother. He died, but she'd already broken up with him. So why did she break up with him? Was it because she loved Jack?
I think they had talked about how it was just not right between them or something.
Yeah. So
that whole trio of relationships is just going to feel awkward forever.
They're going to take vacations together.
No
it's
amount of therapy is going to fix it feeling icky, right?
No, there's, I mean, to be fair to if these were real people and we did have access to them the way we did in this movie, you could easily console Iris by saying it was the least sexy sex of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
literally,
sure.
I do not think neither of them could describe each other's bodies at all.
I just can't imagine that their sex life was ever good. I don't think they would have stayed together. I mean, we're creating a whole new story for these characters, and it's fine. But like,
Which is to take this full around, why it's a good movie.
but that is, I think it's true. I think it's true, Lisa. Like that, we are inspired enough by these characters to like sort of like imagine futures for them that are like vastly different, like than what is laid out.
But hold on, Emily Blunt goes on to marry John Krasinski, so her
So are you
future
saying that
actually is not
she's
that
not-
different.
She's not playing Iris in this film. She's
It's
playing
not that
a version of
different.
herself.
He is actually, I would say he is more like Jim from The Office. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and she's sort of Pammy.
It's that hair. Like, did people?
Jim had that hair. Yeah.
The
Did
floppy
people
hair.
think that hair was like awesome in 2011?
Dude, Justin Bieber made that like a very famous hairstyle.
But now, like
It-
Boris Johnson has that hair now.
Well, but he does it with like a real sort of like chicken fluff kind of like he just like it looks like more like a bit of a bird's nest because it's such a
It's sort of what's the most upsetting about it is it's meant to be boyish. And he does make a comment about that, like, I need to do this to cover things up, but the rest of them are looking like little boys, right? And Boris Johnson and his boyishness, that English fop thing, right, is so gross. Like, grow up, right? And that's basically what I would have liked to have said to Jack, too.
grown men with that color blonde hair make me want to vomit. I mean, I know that's a really harsh statement, but I can't help it.
Yeah, I just feel like he could expect a bit more of himself. And I just didn't, I don't know.
I meant Boris Johnson.
Oh. Who also is just involved in another sex scandal. I know, dear listener, in the future, this is old news, but I only just found this out this morning.
I didn't hear about it at all.
It's a new one. It's somebody that he took on trips and stuff that he was having a relationship with.
Wow. So he could have been the focus of his own film. Oh, he will be in the future.
Oh,
Let's
and
face it.
so this ties into another pop this episode, Love Actually, because that is
Yeah.
basically Hugh Grant's character in Love
Hugh
Actually.
Grant. Oh my God, Hugh Grant. You're talking about 2011. How many Hugh Grant movies was he this guy?
He was this guy a lot.
He's in Notting Hill, this guy, right? That's him. I'm blinking and I don't know what to do because I've never actually done anything mature in my life.
Your
Sorry.
Hugh Grant impression is spot on. I wanted to just talk a little bit about sort of the stories that Lynn Shelton liked to tell and like just a little bit about her as like a filmmaker. And she was talking about, so like even though this story seems wildly impossible, Lynn Shelton had a really different take. She told the AV Club, quote, "Real life really is kind of incredible. The stories from people's actual lives defy credibility. People's lives are messy. Humans are messy. They're flawed. Everyone tries their hardest, but things tend to not go easy. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm attracted to those stories." And I just really liked that sentiment. Because I think like have you seen Hump Day and like some of her other films?
No.
Okay. So I've seen some of her other films and I think she gets like infinitely more, I think like, confident as a storyteller, throughout her films. But like she always really does love sort of messy scenarios, sexually complicated scenarios. She came out as bisexual in 2012, like around when this movie came out. And she wants to tell stories that sort of like take on the like multiplicity of messes that people's lives can look like. And I think she does it like in a very, I don't know, in a very compassionate way, you know?
Oh, no, I agree. I think the reason we can talk about these people so much is because they felt real. There wasn't anything about them that felt artificial. They felt like absolutely real people. Like not like you said, not just the extras at the beginning who probably showed up in their own bland clothing, but they're the only person I would say, but I think she was meant to be that way, is Emily Blunt always felt a little bit out of place. But I think that when you think about the fact that they did set up the fact that she was, she's from England, her dad married an English woman and that she's the product of it. So she always felt a little bit like she was there, but not like she could do better.
It's the accent. It just elevates her to a different stratosphere.
It's the accent. It's just who she is. Just the way she carries herself. It's just the way that she got a better coat, that beautiful blue pea coat that she got to wear around.
Yeah.
Other than the shapeless army coat that Hannah had to wear, So,
and the hunter boots.
And the hunter boots. Yeah, exactly. It was like they brought their own clothes or something like that. But
can you imagine? This is like leftover wardrobe for The Devil Wears Prada from the scene where they went outside, but they never cut that. They cut it from the movie, so it never happened. And she just had this blue. I have to say,
I had some super huge laughs. One, like we were saying, how funny Mark Duplass is when he doesn't want Iris to know that he'd been sleeping and he goes outside to pretend he was jogging.
Yeah.
And he comes running in and he is like trying to make himself look like he ran a marathon. His hair is soaking wet. The front of his... I was really laughing at that. And then also another part that she nailed about West Coast is that vegan person that everybody knows making those pancakes. And I've never laughed. Like, I'm just sitting at home alone watching this. But when she says, like, she tries making these vegan pancakes and then she goes, oh, wait, I'll find some maple syrup. And then she comes, I can't find any, but cashew butter will do. I thought, what is it about vegans that they always say things like that to you? I'm sorry, if you're a vegan listening, let me just tell you, I will try your food. I eat a lot of vegan food. It's fine. But don't substitute. Just make something. Don't try and tell me I won't notice. I will notice. And that's what I thought was very funny.
Yeah, it's not a vegan thing, but like I remember when I was little, I went over to my uncle's house one time and he was weird and he had this weird wife and they were like, we don't have any syrup for the pancakes we've made you, but we're going to use cornstarch. Corn syrup. Sorry, not cornstarch, corn syrup. Sorry. Oh my God. Look, this margarita is big and strong and this is what recording from home is like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so corn syrup. And I was just like, all right, I guess and it was like, no. Like, I don't even like real authentic maple syrup. I love the Aunt Jemima butter flavor. I'm not a purist about maple syrup, but don't hand me corn syrup and tell me it's the same. Come on.
Might as well just melt some sugar then. That's the same, right?
I would rather have that.
Yeah.
Or today's the day we put peanut butter on the pancakes. Whatever. Just distract me
but
with
at least
something
it might
else.
have been pancakes. Like this whole so yeah, I found that was the kind of interesting thing. I liked there was something so interesting about Hannah in that she was so controlled about everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden now she's just thrown into this situation and she's making really bad decisions. But like you said, this is a story about the two sisters coming back together and in that way, I did like that kind of scene. I think, yeah, the montage was probably a bit long, but the fact that they did become friends again to the point where all three of them were going to be there with her peeing on a stick was lovely.
I mean, I don't think you should hold the stick in your hand while the pee is working. They want you to lay it on a surface that's flat.
Because you don't warm it or something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the real... I mean, I know that you have to lay it on a flat surface and you're not supposed to... Anyway, but, that's fine. People in movies are always taking pregnancy tests wrong. There's nothing we can really do about it. One of the things that I love so much, though, just... Oh, sorry, yeah?
Yeah, but, how do you think the movie ended?
Do I think she was pregnant?
Yeah.
Based on I was staring at Emily Blunt's face, yes, because she looked shocked. Did you notice that?
I noticed that too. I watched her face as well. Yeah, I would go with yes, pregnant. Yeah.
Otherwise, the film is kind of pointless.
But then, I mean, how feasible is... Yeah, anyway, who cares, I guess, because that, whatever happens after that doesn't matter, but...
I love the idea of a group baby. I mean, I do think group
do they have
baby,
a group baby?
I think it could I think it can work out. I think sort of sort of like non-traditional family structures can work really well as long as everyone sort of like gets better at communication than what the three of them exhibited during this complicated 3 days.
When you sent out the our outline for this episode, you sent a link to Mark Maron's podcast.
Yeah.
So a lot of people probably know Mark Maron, the comedian and the podcast interviewer, and that was they were together for a couple of years. And so as he explained, the tradition of their podcast is that if someone dies, they put up the episode where they interviewed them. And of course, he's done this a lot because he's been doing this podcast for, 10 years now, I would say.
Yeah.
It was really hard to listen to him, obviously, someone he loved very much. But the interview with her, what an extraordinarily lovely person. Just so easygoing and kind and curious, and all of the reasons you would miss someone very much, but all of the heart that you felt in that movie. Just like you were saying, how she wanted to make a movie at 30 and thought it was too old, and then did, and it worked, and all these things. She just had a real generosity of spirit. And I definitely think that's what this movie had too. Like, we're all crazy here, but guess what? We're going to raise a kid.
I mean, there's a hope to it, like
that's it.
No matter how messy it is, there's still hope. And it's hard, there's still hope. And I feel like that's kind of like, just the fact that she was a film editor, but she was entirely self-taught as a director.
Yeah.
Makes her first movie in her 30s and then has this, almost 20-year long career, and then her first feature film was in 2006. And by 2009, she was already like directing Mad Men and Noodle and The Good Place.
That's so crazy.
And she had just completed Little Fires Everywhere, which just came out recently and which we want to do in the future. And I don't know, I just think she achieved so much. And in part, it's because she seemed to sort of love everything she was doing.
She loved the process. She loved working on movies. And I just really think that's what shone through in this movie. I think that as much as we're head shaking, it's a big mess. As you said, there's a hopefulness and a real sweetness to the movie.
We love to leave our episodes on something that we recommend. Lisa, do you want to go first?
So I started watching the new Netflix 10-part series called White Lines. It's from the Spanish director Alex Pina, who a lot of people might know from La Casa de Papel, which I love saying. Translated is Money Heist. And I think it's Netflix's most popular show ever around the world.
Wow.
So this new one is just this really tawdry soap opera in Ibiza. With a DJ that's murdered and came from Manchester. So if you like those late 90s soundtrack songs and raves and over-the-top sex scenes, like, really, Netflix has made a leap, and it's an interesting one. So
am I going to see that D?
I didn't know, you're right. I haven't seen the D yet. I haven't. But I saw more things simulated than I've seen before, if that
cool
means anything. Anyway, it is really trashy, and by that I mean you should watch it.
Awesome. AG, what about you?
I just started watching Unorthodox, which is
I've heard that, yeah.
a short series on Netflix, and it is amazing. It's so it just makes you like it shows you this world that it's the first Netflix production that is primarily in Yiddish, and it's about a young Jewish woman who flees this ultra Orthodox community in Williamsburg, and like she's in this marriage and she doesn't want to be in, and she doesn't want to have babies, and she doesn't want to do all these things that are expected of her by the community. And so she runs away to Germany, and it's about her trying to start a life outside her community in Germany. And it's It's based on a memoir that is a true story, obviously, but it's only loosely based around that. But you just get this glimpse into the ultra Orthodox community, a Jewish community in Williamsburg, and like so interesting and so eye opening, and yeah, I'm just enjoying watching it so much.
Cool. Very cool. I'm going to recommend, I plowed through the entire season over the weekend when I had some allergies that kept me a little bit more even closely bound to my couch than normal, or my armchair, as it were. And I watched All Rise. If you listen to Keep It, or you follow Ira Madison III on Twitter, he's been sort of on it for like a while. And it's the story of, it's set in LA. It follows Lola Carmichael, an African-American judge or an African-American woman who has been a lawyer and a DA, and is appointed to be a judge in Los Angeles. And it's the kind of like a little bit of like a, sort of like, it's a lawyer show, very like sort of procedural lawyer show, but the kind of with the kind of like sort of like I don't know, bend for justice and equity that I love so much. A bit of a fantasy world where you like, you're seeing lawyers and judges care about justice and equity and things like that. And the majority of the cast is all people of color, and you've got African American people, Latina people. It's great, and I love it a lot. And it's very easy.
Where are you watching it?
Oh, I'm personally watching it on the CTV app, but it's also
okay.
on another app. I can't remember what the other app is, but they had to film the last episode in quarantine. So the season finale is all in quarantine, and they do such a great job. And so it's really good. And anyway, it's super good, and I love it a lot. It's called All Rise.
Excellent. Wow.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And thank you so much, Lynn Shelton, for everything you've given us. We are really grateful, and I'm really excited to dig into sort of more of all of Lynn's filmography.
Yes.
If you want to hang out with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening and spending time with us. And, just like everyone's locked down, and it means a lot that you want to hang out with us.
Yeah, thank you. And as well as being our co-host right now, Andrea Gin is also our producer. So thank you for putting this all together and, helping with some of the technical difficulties. She's also our IT specialist here.
Yeah.
And our prepper. So she's the house to raid if things go down. So
can't wait.
That's
so
also
excited.
to keep in mind. All right,
Thanks,
so we'll
everyone.
see you next week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.